All right, we are back here as Micro Month continues on the Sky Guys podcast. We are going then to a new micro show. We're talking about Forces of Destiny, a two-season Star Wars show that was released in 2017, 2018, focused on female characters of the franchise. I'm your host, Mike Phillips. With us here today, we gave him the week off because Lupita Nyong'o did such a good job narrating the show for us. Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. Different backdrop. I'm kind of reporting on the field here, reporting from my parents' house instead of my own space. But yeah, doing well. Glad to talk to you guys. Continuing what we're calling it, micro month, right?
Micro Month.
Yeah, we're continuing that, and yeah, definitely excited to talk to you guys about it.
Yep. Also here with us today, I'm going to call him the general of this podcast. Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing well. Very excited for Micro Month to almost be over. Let's just say this stuff is not for me, but if I get to watch some Star Wars, I do enjoy it.
Yep. Also here with us here today, the man has been with us the entire month. We're calling him the Micro Man now. Max Rower's here. Max, how are you?
Hey, Mike, good to be back here. It's ironic because I'm actually pretty tall. So it's interesting. Micro Month is a nickname, but happy to always be talking about the animated shows.
Yep. Always fun to talk about this stuff here. And for the people behind the scenes, have a little fun with Micro Month here, just so you know, like Stars are throwing us curveballs releases of these shows here. We originally intended this to run the entire month of February. So what you heard last week was recorded in February, then pushed to May, and then we pushed it back again because Acolyte came out in June. We need to do our Acolyte prep. So here, this has been basically a podcast going from January until May records. You're hearing in August. So this is a fun Micro Month, Nick.
Yeah, and now that it's August, we can comment on all the future things and see how our predictions are. So I can't believe that the Acolyte had Luke Skywalker in it, right?
Yeah, incredible.
Made no sense, but he was there.
Yeah, Max, that was a wild flash forward.
Time travel has never been introduced in Star Wars, really, but it was really shocking to see. All the fans were very, very upset.
Yeah, Pete, did you also have the multiverse as a possibility here for Acolyte?
I did not. Is that confirmed?
No, we're having our wildly inaccurate predictions on Acolyte, so
Sorry, I'm half in, half out. I'm trying to fill out this rundown, but yeah, no, Iron Man shows up.
yeah. Yeah, Iron Man make cameo as well here. So we'll get into all of this stuff here. So Pete, as always, if you want to subscribe to the Sky Guys and do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys, your favorite podcast platform episodes there here. We are almost through Micro Month, but make sure you subscribe. Got some fun stuff coming after we're done with the micros.
As I always say, we always have really great stuff coming down the pipeline. And if you guys aren't subscribed, you're going to miss out on some stuff. So definitely subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And you get some really cool stuff. You get some fun, interesting themes that we do and topics that we do here on the podcast.
Yep. And Nick, people want to follow us on social media. How can I do that?
You can follow at Sky Guys Podcast. It's on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok.
Yep, you go check out the YouTube version. Mike Phillips on YouTube. You see all our fun backgrounds. Max is in a Force of Destiny episode. We're talking about the one we're talking about next week. And we have our props as always here with our graphics. So Lego Ahsoka is one of the main characters of Force of Destiny is with us.
I said hello, but I was muted, so I'll say it again. Hello.
Yeah, and as we just talked about throughout Micro Month here, Nick, no news this week because we cannot predict the future in the news department. So we're going to give you wildly inaccurate predictions all month instead.
Yeah, so they announced that they're going to re-release these sequels and redo them completely with new directors. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, first in line there, Nick.
Yep.
All right, so let's get into this show here, Forces of Destiny. If you weren't uninitiated to what this show is, this is a storyline that took place back in, I believe, 2017, 2018. These are 2D micro shorts based on the female characters in the Star Wars universe. We have a lot of shorts with Rey, a lot of shorts with Hera, Padme is a few, Ahsoka, Leia. So, Max, as our micro expert here, what'd you think about this show?
I wasn't that impressed, Mike. Honestly, I thought it was not. It definitely was not as good as Clone Wars '03. It wasn't as exciting. The storylines weren't very cohesive, and I thought it had the makings of what could be an interesting premise. And I guess we'll kind of get more into it. But I thought it could be interesting where you have the interplay between all the characters who you don't always see interacting, like Hera and Han, or Jin Urso and Sabine. Uh, and they like really didn't go far enough with it. It was just like a bunch of random disjointed stories, and a lot of them weren't that interesting. So I wasn't really impressed, honestly.
Pete, how'd you feel about it?
I think for what they were all right. I mean, I think it's pretty hard to, in 3 minutes less, have a cohesive story that brings you in, right? I think they're meant to be just kind of one-off things that are just fun to watch, but I don't think it really adds much. So I think they were okay for what they were. Uh, I just think it's something just extra, not needed, but it's not terrible.
Yeah, Nick, I was talking about this off air earlier. These feel like to me like these are deleted scenes that we seen in other material. Like a lot of the Ray stuff you could have seen. Oh, this happened in The Force Awakens. Some when stuff we were not on the camera for, or some of the Leia stuff it happened like it after Return of the Jedi. We had a post credit scene. So like there's stuff that like it just feels like these are like sort of like the lost missing piece. You're familiar with that sort of concept, like as opposed to Clone Wars 03 was telling a full story.
I agree. And for what they were, I think they were okay. I just wish they weren't what they were. Like there were 16 episodes each season, or this season, 3 or 4 minutes each. I wish we had 10 episodes that were 8 minutes each, even that. Because every time I got into a storyline, I'm like, okay, well, it just ended.
Yeah.
They were too short. Like I know that's what they were meant for. I know that's the audience they're meant for, but like nothing happened.
Yeah.
But I could even say like Clone Wars '03. Maybe they were slightly longer, but I felt like they had they were interesting little self-contained story. A lot of these they weren't as interesting even though they were self-contained. It kind of felt like, oh, they could use this to flesh out little parts of the Star Wars universe. Like there was an episode, I think we're going to talk about it, but the episode where like Ahsoka's learning to fight with two lightsabers, I was like, that's really cool. We never see that in Star Wars Clone Wars. This is the first time we're seeing this. That's a really interesting piece to flesh out. Why didn't they do more of that? And they just had this very disjointed thing. So I think even with 2 minutes, they could have done more with it, and they just didn't.
Yeah, I think for me, P, I also feel like with these, there's sort of a disconnect also in terms of like the general style that they're going for here at the storylines, because obviously they're very big on like these characters are here. We got a lot of like, storylines we can pop into. I think if this was done sort of like the Tales of the Blank format, where these are, like Nick said, a few like condense them, do like 8 to 10 minute episodes and do like 8 of them as opposed to 16 twos, I think you could have gotten a more compelling product.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you did less episodes for a longer runtime, you definitely get a more compelling product. I think what they were trying to do, which I think they kind of failed at, was they wanted action. There's really no story building when you look at this. It's all action. Every single episode is an action scene, pretty much. And it's very hard to develop a story. It's very hard to develop a character when you just want to show 2 minutes of action and then action begins 10, 15 seconds into the short. So I agree with you. Less episodes, longer runtime probably would have been a better product.
Yeah, and talk about the animation style here. Obviously, our only 2D reference we've had probably is Clone Wars '03, which for its time was obviously very well, very interesting style here. So, Nick, what do you think of the animation style we got here in these Force of Destiny shorts?
Okay. I don't really have a problem with it. Um, we've gotten so good with the 3D animation that they kind of, always want that. With how good like especially I know this is like 6 years before, but like how good Bad Batch looked at the end, it was unreal. And this is fine though.
Max, what do you think about the animation?
I mean, I didn't really like it. You're kind of seeing an example behind me. The characters just look kind of derpy. Like I don't know. The way they did Clone Wars, it was very nicely animated. It kind of looked like Samurai Jack. The set pieces were really exciting. This animation felt a little bit more like static. I don't know. I was not a fan.
The picture behind you sort of reminds me. It feels like the Disney cartoon version.
Yeah, it's a little bit more. And there was also I don't remember if it was this season, but there's like a scene of I think Chopper and two of the Ewoks like using the turrets and the Millennium Falcon, and they're like not even moving when they're doing it. It's just like a kind of spinning visual, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah,
Like, come on, you don't have a higher animation budget. It's Disney.
yeah, that's next season's one, I think. So
Okay. It's one of the next season ones. Well, regardless, it's just like a problem throughout. Like it just, I don't know. It wasn't animated as well as I would like.
yeah, and one thing I'll give this show credit for, Pete, also is that they did a great job with the voice cast here. I mean, we got a lot of our familiar voices and like voicing these characters, either the live action actor, the original animated actor, or like a mix in some cases here. Just to throw some of the names out here in terms of the characters in animation, we got Ashley Eckstein back doing Ahsoka Tano. We had Vanessa Marshall, Harrison Dula again. Tia Sir Carter's voice of Sabine was doing Sabine. Catherine Tabor, who did Padme in the Clone Wars, is still doing her. Gina Torres does Ketsu Anyu in this show. Matt Lanter's Anakin Skywalker. And we had some of the actors from the live action. I mean, Daisy Ridley does all of Rey's voice work in both seasons. We have obviously Kelly Marie Tran as Rose Tico in season 2. Felicity Jones does Jyn Erso for season 1, but doesn't come back for season 2. We have John Boyega as Finn, Anthony Daniels C-3PO. So they got a lot of quality voice work here in this show, Pete.
Yeah,
Mark
I mean,
Sorry.
Mark Hamill, you said?
Yeah, Mark Hamill was Luke Skywalker in one episode.
Yeah. So I mean, so like I think that kind of shows you where the budget went, right? I mean, like you have an all-star lineup of voice actors, and honestly, that's probably the on a technical side, the best part of this season, right? Is the voice acting and who they got. Kind of, begs the question, is that kind of where they blew all their money, right? And for lack of a better term, like, is this where they put all their cash and they said, okay, we don't have much for animation, it's going to be a 2-3 minute short, let's just make it cartoony. Let's be honest, if we didn't have this podcast, we probably weren't picking this up at leisure, right? I think we did this because we wanted to see as much Star Wars content as we can, and this is Star Wars content. I don't think this was marketed toward us, so I think our opinion of it is going to be a little skewed to opposed to what they were marketing it for.
Yeah, I believe the target audience here, this originally premiered on YouTube and then on Disney Channel, and it was designed to felt better to appeal to children's watching patterns at the time. So that was sort of the idea there, Pete. They wanted to get kids into the Star Wars story with bite-sized chunks.
Right. So a 32-year-old as myself watching this is not appealing for my demographic, right? So I mean, we can talk all we want about the quality of it. The quality was probably just fine for the kids. I don't think the kids are sitting there going, this could be better. This could be like Clone Wars. So as much as I agree with the statements made by my fellow panelists here, I do think that this was made for a specific reason, and I think if we look at it through those eyes, they spent the money where they wanted to, right? And I think it doesn't really matter because it was marketed to kids.
Yeah, and Max, another fun note here before we dive into some specifics of these episodes in season 1 here is that these shorts are all in canon of the main timeline of Star Wars. So like all this stuff is canon according to the official like Disney markup here. So all these moments have officially happened, even though like we may not like the way they told them, but these are stories that do fit in the proper Star Wars timeline.
Okay, I mean that's pretty cool. It does raise a couple of questions for me in terms of like, because you see certain elements of like the Jedi training, and I'm like, oh, how long were they training for? I thought it was a quicker period. But I don't think they like are inconsistent with the movies in any way, so I don't have any problems there. I agree with Pete though. The voice acting was like a big highlight for me. Seeing all like the Clone Wars voice actors back together again was really nice.
Yeah, plus like it's pretty cool that they managed to get Daisy Ridley for 2 seasons of Rey work. That was also a highlight.
Yeah, also the movie actors. It was very impressive. They hit basically every major Star Wars character, I think, other than like Carrie Fisher, who had died by this point, and I guess Harrison Ford.
Yeah, which I think you would have been the entire show's budget if you tried to get Harrison Ford to do this.
That's probably right.
Yeah, so anyway, let's get into some of these specific episodes of the show here. Some of these, we're going to sort of group them by character lines here. So the Rey stuff from season 1 here, we got the first 16 shows released from July of 2017 through November of 2017. We got a couple of, I'm going to give brief notes here. Rey and BB-8 are trying to avoid seeing BB-8 get eaten by a night worm. Rey is tracked by some bandits who are trying to steal BB-8, and she beats them up basically with the Night Watcher worm from the first episode. We have another one on the Millennium Falcon where she's traveling with Han, Chewie, and Finn. They find a bomb on the ship and they throw it out. We also have one where she's dealing with Unkar Plot. She's trying to get a ship back that he can't get, and she basically manages to get help from the Beast to bring it back here and gets a big 20 portion reward here. So, Pete, what do you think of the Rey stuff we got?
Unfortunately, I think it was probably the weakest part of the episodes. Spoiler alert: one of those episodes was my LVP. But I mean, I think they're all close. I don't think there was one that was like, "Oh my god, this is terrible." Again, not bad. Enjoyed it for what it was. I felt like it was just not needed, like most of this stuff was. But look, the voice acting was good. It was nice to see, Daisy Ridley, take that role up again in animation. But it was okay. It wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it wasn't the most, terrible Star Wars thing we've ever seen.
Yeah, so Nick, this is our first also seeing Rey animation for us anyway. We don't know if we haven't seen Resistance. I don't know if she's in Resistance or not, but what do you think about her storylines?
Yeah, I don't think she's in Resistance, but I thought they were fine. I enjoyed her storylines in season 2 more, which I know is next week's conversation. But the season 1 storylines with Rey were fine. One of them is my LVP. Or I guess we're not really doing that. We're doing characters LVP, but one of them is my least favorite episode.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think any of this stuff was necessarily bad. The media was not made for me. It was made for another demographic, and I'm the other demographic, so I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, Max, I think my highlight of the Rey story was the episode on the Falcon where they're trying to find the bomb. So I think that was my favorite of the Rey stuff.
I thought that episode was okay. I was actually going back and forth between that one and the Bounty episode.
Mike, that's my least favorite.
The Bounty episode or the Falcon episode?
The Falcon episode is my least favorite.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't, if my thoughts on this were, oh, this would be a good way to flesh out the movies and certain scenes that we didn't see, I think Rey did that the least. Like, I didn't feel like it contributed anything in this season to the sequel trilogy. And it just sort of felt like these random disjointed stories I didn't really care much for. So definitely the weakest part of the season.
All right, so let's go ahead now to we'll go to Leia here because Leia has a few shorts this season here. We get one called Ewok Escape where she rescues Wicket from stormtroopers and they give her the dress from episode 6. We have a situation on Hoth where Leia and R2 trying to find Chewie when he's digging through corridors of the Hoth base. They find out he's a Wampa and Leia distracts the Wampa so Chewie can get away. We have also here that Leia is being led by stormtroopers on Lothal to like a ship. Sabine pretends to kidnap her so that they can give Sabine a data disk. IG-88 shows up and shenanigans ensue. We also have here that there's an episode here at the end of the season where Leia sends Han to go grovel the Hera for rations so that the Ewoks don't eat the stormtroopers that they've taken prisoner because they're hungry. So of these Leia storylines, Nick, how do you think about that?
I like the last one the most, maybe. I don't know. Well, yeah, I think the last one was my favorite of them. I kind of enjoy the last one was the Ewoks one, right?
Yeah, the one where Han has to tell Hera that the Falcon is not as good as the Ghost.
Yeah, I kind of enjoy the Ewoks, so seeing them is cool. And they do the same music from Return of the Jedi, which I like whenever they show up.
Yeah.
So just for that reason alone. But Ezekiel Elliott wasn't in it.
No, he wasn't.
You know that one Ewok looks exactly like Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah, he had the day off.
Yeah.
Pete, what did you think of the Leia story?
Sorry, I never even thought about Ezekiel Elliott being that. So that caught me off guard. Yeah, I thought they were, again, same thing as the Rey. I feel like my answer is going to be pretty much similar the whole way through. They were okay. They weren't like fantastic. Like Nick, I like the Ewoks as well, so it probably was my favorite out of that bunch. But look, especially with these episodes, we get a little bit more of the original trilogy, which is nice, and I think that's always welcomed, right? I don't think anyone's saying I don't want any more original trilogy, snippets or behind the scenes or stuff we haven't seen either. So I think this was nice, and I think it was, again, voice acting was well done as well.
All right. So we also have here, Max. Like, I think my favorite of these bunch was the Sabine and Leia crossover one. That felt like very fun and very Leia of Rebels, like mismatching this up. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the most interesting one was seeing Han interact with Hera because we just never see that. But my favorite of the Leia bunch, I agree, was Sabine and Leia. It felt like a very nice action set piece. I think it was like an enjoyable little storyline. And even if it doesn't really contribute to anything, it was cool to see Leia and Sabine interact because you don't really see that during Rebels.
All right. So let's go on to our next character. We'll do the Ahsoka Padme ones together here. Yeah, the fourth one, the Padawan Path. Ahsoka basically is late for a ceremony on Coruscant, the Jedi Temple. She rescues civilians from a malfunctioning droid. She gets the Padawan Brave for her good work. We also get here Ahsoka helping Padme with an assassination attempt in her apartment when they're trying to field negotiations from a assassin. We have Ahsoka learning how to use two lightsabers, which we saw earlier. Yoda teaching her how to do that. Ahsoka teaching Padme how to pilot a droid starfighter, and Padme has to use her pilot skills to defeat the droid here. So, of the Ahsoka stuff, Max, like how do you feel about that?
I thought Ahsoka was probably the strongest, and it might just be that I enjoyed seeing all the voice actors and actresses from Clone Wars interacting again. But I thought like the Teach You I Will episode where Ahsoka learns how to use two lightsabers, that was spoilers, my favorite of the series. And that's what I thought this should have been, right? Is like you have these things that could be fleshed out in short bursts. Oh, we never saw Ahsoka learn how to use two lightsabers. Here she is learning how to use two lightsabers. That's a cool little self-contained story. Why did they do more of that? And they had like an example of Leia doing that in the second season. Um, so I thought Ahsoka exemplified the best like what this series could have been. And I guess that sort of makes the rest of it more disappointing by comparison.
P, how'd you feel about the Leia stuff? I mean, the Ahsoka stuff. Sorry.
Lost the mute button. It was. I mean, I hate to keep saying the same answers as everyone else, but I thought it was the best too. I enjoyed it. Might be a bias of just liking the character Ahsoka in general. As people who've listened to the pod, I said that the Ahsoka live action was the best live action that Star Wars has produced or Disney Star Wars has produced. So might be a little bit of bias there, but I think it was good. I think it was interesting to see more of her outside of what we have seen. And again, just like my answers prior, the voice acting was great as well.
Nick, anything you want to add there?
No, that's my favorite short as well. There's really nothing to add. I think we're all in agreement on that one.
I love that short. That was a great story, like little extra piece of information we never got. And now we got it here.
Yeah.
All right. Two more characters on the cover here. We got Jyn Erso for 2 episodes. This is right after Rogue One comes out. It's popular here. We have Jyn Erso rescuing a cat that the stormtroopers take from a kid. And then we got to run to Sabine, where Jyn Erso basically accidentally finds a data disk Sabine is stolen, and they meet up, and Jyn is convinced to get back to Sabine. So, the Jyn Erso stuff interest anybody here?
That was cool. I mean, she's like not really in a lot of stuff, so it's nice to see more of her. Rogue One is like an underrated treasure within the Star Wars movies, so it's good to see those characters be fleshed out more, like on Andor.
Yeah. P, how you feel about it?
Honestly, the same. Sorry to not be original, but I don't really have much to add there.
Yeah, I'm guessing Nick is with the panel here.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you look at the length of the episodes and the amount. It's like an album. It's like you listen to the music. They're all 3 minutes. There's 16 of them. It's literally an album. There was more time between episodes where I had to switch, grab the remote, and hit next episode than there was watching an episode.
Yeah, I was watching these on Sunday. I'm like, oh, like about 40 minutes, I'm done. Like with the first season, I didn't
know, but every time I put the remote down, I felt like I had to pick it back up to hit next because they make you wait 20 seconds to start the next episode.
Yeah,
that's such a long time.
It is a long time here, and go to the last one here, which is the only two we haven't covered yet. Is basically two Sabine and Ketsu storylines, which I don't think we need to discuss these much. I think these were definitely weak links in the mix here, Nick.
I agree. I actually was thinking of something different. I was reading something wrong when I said that my least favorite episode was the one that you liked a lot. That was incorrect. That is not my least favorite episode. It's definitely one of these ones that we're not discussing now.
Yeah, the Sabine and Ketsu ones are sort of like cool, like whatever. Like we got Gina Torres back, which is great, but Max, I don't think we needed like a Ketsu spotlight here.
Yeah, I mean it was fine. I obviously like seeing more of animated Sabine. And again, the voice actresses alone kind of give it at least some enjoyment, but I agree. It wasn't really, they didn't really add much.
Yeah, Sabine season 2 is much better than Sabine season 1 of this show.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, so go around real quick here. Favorite short from season 1, Pete?
The Teach You I Will, where Ahsoka is learning the lightsaber stuff.
Nick, you agree?
I do. I'm just going to say a different one just for the sake. Like, yes, that's my favorite, but I actually really enjoyed number 15. That's the one when the big hippo won't move and Ray has to move it.
Yeah. And
No reason why except that Unker Plot was in it and he was clearly played by D. Bradley Baker and it just made me laugh.
Yeah.
I think he sounded exactly like Wrecker.
Yeah.
And he just like pulled the Wrecker voice out and it was clearly him and not Simon Pegg.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. Mac, any other mentions to this category you like?
I mean, mine is also the Teach You I Will short. If I had to pick another one, it would be the one with Leia and Sabine.
Yeah, that one is a good one. I second that was mentioned here already. I will also throw in here. I like, and I might be a sucker for this one. I like the track control. I like the Millennium Falcon shenanigans from the Force Awakens. I think that's a fun one for me. All right, least favorite. Are we all in agreement here? It's something in the Sabine Hera, like the Sabine Ketsu area. You have a different opinion, anybody?
I didn't like the Ray ones. I was between the BB-8 Bandits and the Tracker Trouble. I think just because that's one of your favorite, Mike, I'll say the BB-8 Bandits. I don't know. I was like, yeah, didn't really do much for me.
I think the last one is my least favorite with the speeder.
Yeah, that one sort of like went nowhere pretty quick.
Maybe because it was the last one and I knew it was the last one and I'm like, is this over yet?
Pete, anything else you want to throw in here?
For me, it's BB-8 Bandits. I think it was typical Disney trying to push BB-8 and characters that they think is going to be the next franchise character. Droid, at least. It added nothing. It's just look again. It's marketed to kids. I'm sure kids enjoyed this. I think Daisy Ridley did a fantastic job at the voice casting and the voice acting, but BB-8, like Bandits trying to steal BB-8, is not a storyline that I think interests anyone at our age group, at least. So that's my LVP.
All right, let's wrap it up here real quick. MVP of the season 1 here. Give it to Leia. I think Leia did good work across all her shorts, and she is very valuable helping the Ewoks and giving Sabine data here. To give Leia MVP. Pete, who are you going with?
I'm going with my girl Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Bias included.
So MVP Ahsoka for Pete.
Yep.
Nick.
I'm going out of left field here. This is just someone that I was shocked to see, and because of that, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! I love this character." I don't think we ever spoke with this character ever on the podcast, but I'm giving it to IG-88. I love IG-88, and the fact that he showed up, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! IG-88's here." So just because of that, he's the MVP.
He held his own against those stormtroopers.
Yeah, IG-88's the man, and IG-88's in the next season too. Spoiler alert.
Yep. Max.
I think I have to give it to Ahsoka too. She had my favorite short, and she was solid across all the shorts that she did with Padme. Those were some of my favorites.
All right, LVP Pete.
It was kind of hard, so I gave it to BB-8 because that was my least favorite episode. Just yeah, I don't know. Just droid arcs never do it for me. So BB-8.
Nick.
I'm gonna give it a Ketsu. Not really. Just those episodes didn't grab me, and that was the common thing in the episodes that didn't grab me were the ones that she was in. So how about
that? Max.
I guess Ray. I mean, Daisy Ridley does a great job with the voice acting, but she's the lead character in the shorts that were my least favorite.
I'm gonna give it to Ket. I'm gonna give it to I'll give it to Hera here, just for the fact that like she's potentially letting Stormtroopers get eaten because she is a pride about the ghost and the Falcon. That's not a good look. All right, last not least here. Grade the season on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is worst 1978 holiday special. 10 is out there the Prison Break episode of Andor in terms of the pinnacle of live action Star Wars content. Nick, you're up first.
4.
Okay.
It for what it is, it's fine. I wish it wasn't what it is.
Max.
I'll give it a 4.5. I was gonna give it a 4, but I think Pete saying like, "Oh, this was for kids," makes me be a little bit less harsh on it. But I think it had a lot more promise. And even if you're delivering something for kids, they could have done more with it than they did.
All right, I'm gonna give it a 5 as well. I do feel like for what it was supposed to be, it's fine. It did a solid job here. Could have been more. It was not meant for us. And Pete, I know you got to run here, so you want to give me your grade and then let people know how 5 on the socials.
Yeah, no. So I give it a 5. Like I said before, I think for me, not my favorite thing, but for what it was marketed to, was probably perfect. So that's why I give it just a middle of the road average 5.
All right, cool. If people want to follow you on social media, how can I do that?
At Conti29 on Twitter, CONSY29. Usually I have a background up. Today I don't, but go follow AP Tyler 308. That's the person that did the background on Reddit that I usually use on these Zoom calls.
All right, Pete. Thanks for all the time this week. Really appreciate it. We'll see you in 2 weeks. You're not here next week with us.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna miss you guys. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
All right, so Pete is bounced out of here, and next week, guys, we will be back for Mike wraps up here, Max. Forces of Destiny season 2, which I think was better than season 1 in my opinion.
I liked it more. It had some interesting shorts, and I'm excited to review with you guys. This micro month has really been like a micro year.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up the micro year. Max, thanks for coming again here. Nick, one more time. People want to follow us on social media. How can I do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok.
All right, you can also follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS331. There's some sports stuff going on just on the Suffering Podcast. I don't know what's going to be at this point in the calendar. You'll find out when this episode airs. But until then, may the force be with you.